My name is Dante Everett, and I am doing an informative speech on Mike Tyson, but on the topic of, richest man going broke. The purpose of my informative speech is to inform and entertain. Entertain. As a result of my presentation, the audience will be able to gain knowledge on the finances and the results of overspending. Have you ever wondered how it is possible to make a lot of money and blow it over the course of 1, 2, or maybe even 3 years? Because money makes the world go around in our society. So every so often you hear about how people come up and overcome obstacles to get where they want to go, and as a result of their hard work and determination, they're able to get money and they're blessed financially. But at the same time, you have those who are in that position, but they're in the same position as the example that I mentioned the first time, but they don't use their money wisely, and sometimes that's how they end up with financial issues. I am a reliable speaker on this topic because I have done an abundance amount of research on bankruptcy. When you're eyed for the latest technology, clothing, and sometimes lavish needs for things, and people all around you, when your ability to say no rather than to say yes is always higher, it's very likely for you to become familiar with bankruptcy. Money makes the world go around in our society. And sometimes people aren't, given the resources or the advice on what to do with their money when they get it. I'm going to talk about the example of Mike Tyson. Mike Tyson, born and raised in Brooklyn, New York. Mike Tyson grew up in a very unfamiliar area. Well, he grew up in the hood, basically, is what I'm trying to say. And he didn't have anybody to mentor him, or he didn't have his parents in his life, so he grew up, his mind was kind of, messed up. And all he did was fight growing up, and somebody saw him one day and just decided to take him under their wing, and they produced one of the world's greatest heavyweight boxing champions of our generation. Mike Tyson was a former professional and the undisputed heavyweight champion of the world, and the youngest to win 3 titles at the age of 20. Although he was known for what he did in the ring, more people know him for what he did out the ring and the way he acted. One of the main things people know him for was a rape conviction that some say he got wrongfully convicted for, and some say the opposite. And he ended up having to spend jail time. And I think in Mike Tyson's mind, that kind of messed him up, because he was like, oh, I didn't do this, so why am I here? And although the judge saw the opposite of what he believed, we never really will know the truth. And one of the other big famous things he did was biting Evander Holyfield in the ear in their second fight after losing the first fight in 1996. Over the career of Mike Tyson, he made a total of $400 million in his 20-year professional career. However, Mike Tyson, he is currently in a $34 million debt with the IRS, and because he didn't save his money properly, the government took back all of his assets, and one of the biggest things the government took away was his 2 Las Vegas mansions, which was a combined total of $26 million. It is safe to say that Mike's issues has stemmed from depression and trying to live beyond his means on a daily basis. Not including trying to protect his image and continuing to dominate in the sports of boxing, because his priorities were misaligned and he wasn't very focused on some fights. Some fights he would come in great shape, and some fights he wouldn't even train for the fight at all, is why he started losing. And one of the biggest fights, a lot of people kind of rooted for the underdog, was when he fought Buster Douglas, and Buster Douglas, basically picked him apart and beat him. although they both earned $30 million that fight, Mike spent that $30 million like that day was his last day on earth. Well, the next day, after he got his purse money. The faster the money came in for Mike, the faster he was spending. There are a lot of stories of him hiring as many as 200 people in his posse, which included bodyguards, chauffeurs, chefs, trainers, gardeners, and that is only to name a few. Mike was not very aware of what he was doing, I don't think, because he wouldn't have bought a 40-inch white gold necklace with 80 carats of diamonds in it from a jewelry store that costed him $173,000. And that's just to name a few of the things that Mike did. Hearing a lot about the purchases compared to all the other things he purchased, from tigers to lions to just basically anything he wanted, I think he was excited to get those things, but, looking back on it, reflecting on his life now, I think he regrets a lot of the things that he did. And one of the other biggest things which costed him a lot of money, which cost a lot of men a lot of money, is when they get divorced from their wives. Mike married Robin Givens, who was one of the biggest and most successful actors. Robin, she said the reason that she divorced him is because she felt like Mike was making her live in fear, and she was scared. So that's why she divorced him. But Mike said that, she basically just was with him for his money. So the court ultimately settled it out, but that didn't really end up in Mike's favor because he had to pay her $10 million. Mike lost even more money just because of his behavior, his abuse, and the way he treated people. Mike made a lot of pointless spendings, from Lamborghinis to Ferraris. He just didn't know when enough was enough. And just concluding on everything I talked about, I think if Mike would have been, aware or in contact with a lot of financial advisors or just people just to be like, hey bro, I think, it's not a good idea, for you just to keep spending money because you're gonna eventually need it. You might need it one day, or, if you want to do something in life after boxing, like you won't be able to do it because you don't have money. I think if he had, somebody like that in his corner, he would have turned out a lot better. So my biggest takeaway from this presentation would be enjoy life, have fun, but at the same time, you have to think years down the road, or else, you won't have money, and you won't be happy because you're going to be struggling to get money. So that's one of my biggest takeaways.